everyone, I'm John Evans. Welcome to another episode of One-on-One. When I launched this podcast back in April of 2017, one of the first interviews I did was with Dr. Jose Sartarelli, the Chancellor at UNC Wilmington. We talked about the challenges he faced coming to America, his success in the business world, and his transition into higher education. This week, we're talking again to Dr. Sartarelli, remotely this time, not in our studio. We have to practice social distancing. And we're talking about a new set of challenges he's facing because he's leading the university, his staff, and thousands of students as they all deal with the coronavirus outbreak. Chancellor Jose Sartarelli, you were one of the very first I interviewed. I'm glad to have you back. I must say, I wish it was under some better circumstances. But how are you and the UNCW community doing under these trying times?
Well, I can tell you, John, that we are doing very well given the circumstances. I've seen faculty and staff work together just beautifully to prepare themselves to change the mode altogether from face-to-face education to online. And they've been very adaptive. They were very adaptive when we had Florence, and they've been very adaptive with the new reality that we're faced with at this very moment. In fact, we're starting officially today, the 23rd, we're starting our online education for the remainder of the semester for the next 7 weeks. So we're very excited about it. It's taken a lot of work on the part of our faculty to get ready, and also on the part of our staff to support everything that we're going to have to do in the next seven weeks.
Now, you have put on the UNCW website that starting Wednesday, I guess, building access is limited to CDMEs. Just for those of us who aren't familiar with the vernacular, what does that mean and what is that doing for your community?
Yeah, the CDMEs are basically the mandatory folks that have to, quote unquote, be on alert or be in charge, so to speak, and be available. And so we have identified a group of folks that are under that denomination, so to speak, and we will be required to either come to a meeting or go to his or her office or perform the duties that have to be performed. And so those are the CDMEs, and we've taken that quote-unquote identification very carefully to make sure that we have the right people at the right tasks, perform the right functions to meet the needs of the university. Yeah.
How many students do you still have in the residence halls? I know there was news coming out last week that they were told that they really had to leave, but there were going to be some exceptions. How many are still in some of the residence halls?
Not many. We are down to probably less than 100 at this stage, and we're likely to stay at that level, and that includes some people who have sought to stay, asked for permission to stay for various reasons, circumstances, as well as some of our international students. We've got probably about 25 or so international students in that group of less than 100.
The counseling center in DePaulo Hall, I read, is still open. Have you had a lot of people seeking counseling? This is a trying time, Chancellor. Very
trying. Yes, very trying. We have had a lot before, and also when they were coming in, because we had the spring break, and then they came back, and we had close to 1,500 students already checking in. Mm-hmm. So we have had some attending and going to our counseling center. It is a very important element. People develop anxiety, sometimes depression, but anxiety is the major issue, really. We don't know what's going to happen next, what's going to happen in the future. And so they come for advice and support, and we're ready to do that, and we'll continue to be ready to do that. Our health center will continue to be fully operational, not only for whoever needs it as we go forward.
I know it's a troubling time now for the students who are going to school in spring of 2020, but have you seen any impact on registration for summer courses registration and applications for 2021? Has the industry as a whole really kind of stopped, or are things still going on?
We have not yet. We normally recruit three types of students. Freshmen, we recruit transfer students coming in from community colleges and other programs, and we recruit graduate students. We have seen significant growth and continue to see significant growth in our graduate programs. We have seen also very good growth in transfer students, and I think our freshmen have been stable at this stage. Now, between now and our next census is going to be in September.
Mm-hmm.
So between now and September, we will know what's going to happen. Now, we have had to cancel certain things. For example, we were planning to have a major event in Raleigh, and we canceled that. And we were planning to visit with 90 prospective students, and we canceled that. We were planning to bring in lots of students for what we call a Seahawk visit, about 2,500 students in total, and we had to cancel that. We're trying to figure out how to do that now in given the new circumstances. So I think there's going to be an impact, but I'm in no position now to say what that impact is.
Right, and I don't think anybody is right now, right?
No, I don't think we do. And last year in the fall, we've added 752 additional students. In the spring, the beginning of spring, we were at up to 848 versus last year. So we are coming in from very substantial growth.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what's going to happen next year, but I do have a suspicion that probably graduate students are going to be pulling up most of our success.
I also read on your post online that if students are using Canvas for support and Technology Assistance Center, have you had to beef up some of those manpower hours because of students who may be working remotely for the very first time, have never done this? You said there are going to be some expected hiccups, and I imagine there are going to be. What have you done to maybe anticipate the influx of calls or emails you might get?
Right. Our ITS folks are fully prepared to support any additional requests that we will have. And I think we're likely to have, because both faculty on one hand who are now using a new technology, as well as students are going to be asking questions, and we're fully ready to support. Now, we're going to be supporting them also on an online basis, but to a large extent. Most of the support is not going to be coming from people who are in an office here on campus necessarily. They may be supporting them from home, but we've started teleworking, and we are supporting teleworking very much. And I'm in the office, at the university now, but after we finish here, I'll probably be going home and be working from home. I'll have several teleconferences and other discussions, Zooms and otherwise this afternoon from home. So we are very much encouraging people to go back home and settle in and secure their site and make sure they're practicing social distancing and living through this very challenging time.
How is Jose Sartarelli doing? I imagine you're a chancellor. You're probably also you're a boss because you've got to keep things running. But are you keeping a closer eye on your team members and yourself, making sure that you're getting the rest you need, making sure that they're getting the rest they need?
Yes, obviously we are making sure that the first element obviously is to make sure that our staff and faculty are keeping up with the recommendations, CDC and otherwise. Stay home, seek social distancing, make sure that you avoid wash hands very quickly. I've never washed my hands so much in my life, and I normally do wash my hands a lot, but now I'm washing it very carefully. But I think the personal contact is the number one issue. How do we make sure that people are not that we're not rubbing shoulders with folks and on a very regular basis? In addition to that, as you know, as you were referring to, I did do a full quadruple bypass back in January 30th, 2018, 2 years ago.
Right.
And so I'm, I'm in the high risk category. I've got to be protecting myself as much as possible, isolating myself, but at the same time, not isolating myself, making myself available, but making sure that I'm not, exposing myself to too much contact when I should not have it. And that's a major concern. And it's part of the anxiety that I was referring to.
Yeah.
That really brings anxiety to all of us, except for some of our younger folks, perhaps, that don't get that much, but they also, some of them do. Yeah.
With your vast business background, Chancellor, take me inside a business, in the administration of a business. What are big businesses doing now to try to keep their employees? What are they doing now to try to keep the bottom from falling out? Do large companies have plans like this in your experience?
Oh yes, big time. And I think this is, and I would look at it different ways. It depends on the industry that you're in. So if you're in cruise ships, if you are in airlines, if you are in fossil fuel at this very moment, these are trying times because something is happening with your demand. The demand has walked away and moved away altogether, and that's a real problem. As soon as that happens, you're going to have an impact on cash flow. And so they're very concerned about cash flow and how to maintain it. That's why even small businesses like restaurants, et cetera, they're doing a lot of takeout stuff because that makes up for some of that loss. And I can tell you, no one, big company or otherwise, is ready for a 3-month reduction in demand, significant reduction in demand. In the case of airlines and cruise ships, you're talking about 80% demand cut. It is a major issue. And so, I kind of sympathize with the president when he says that not only we have to help the people, and that's number one, but you also have to help companies not to go belly up. Because if the companies go belly up, then you've got a major problem 3 months from now. And so that's now there's some areas, for example, food and food-related activities, supermarkets and health science, healthcare. These are industries that are getting an inflow of more demand. And so they don't have in fact, some industries, in fact, like that, and I'm not going to cite a name, but their stock prices in a market that has lost a third of its value, their stock prices are going up. And so you've got to be prepared for that. But job one, I think, for any industry now is cash flow. Short term, particularly those that are exposed to shortage in demand. And there are many, with a society like ours, we're not traveling at all. So, gas stations, they're not going to be selling as much gas, right? So it cuts across everything. Restaurants, movie theaters, they're all closed. They're losing sales. So it is a major issue. I can tell you, the challenge for us is how long can we go like this? How long can we go from, the impact on the first quarter is not going to be very substantial in terms of GDP growth, but the second quarter is going to be a disaster. So how many disasters can you have, right? And so I think that is this balancing between public policy and preservation of life and reduction of the impact of coronavirus on one hand, and preservation of the economy, because that is a tough one, and we have to be very sensitive to that as we move forward.
What would you think some of those big companies and businesses will learn and take away from this? This is a first time. I mean, we haven't had anything like this since maybe 1918. So is this something that they can literally plan for moving forward? Or you're thinking as a business owner, I'm not going to have to plan for that anymore?
I think so. I think wise companies, no, let me rephrase it.
Okay.
Particularly larger ones, big companies are getting advices of all kinds all the time. But they're not getting advices like on demand suffering like the way it is now.
Right.
And so even though people are saying, well, we don't have a demand issue because the economy up to, mid of last month or late last month was booming, but now you have a demand issue. It doesn't matter if I didn't have a month ago, but now I do. And so I think they're going to be a lot more sensitive to the fact that, unfortunately, to your point before, is that nature and life is a very fragile situation, and it can be attacked at any moment. We haven't had a major, quote unquote, disease-caused disaster since 1918. We have had a few others, but nothing major. We have progressed so much in the past 100 years. We've become the modern world that we are today. And if think of this, 1918, we didn't have antibiotics at all.
Yeah.
And that was only discovered in 1928. And so, and really put into production penicillins in 1945s and beyond during the Second World War. And so we really haven't had anything that is this vast. Now we apparently have 145 countries, 200 countries, 145 now that has this problem. We haven't had this problem. So this is new. And I can tell you, the businesses are consulting, and they're talking to people, because this is a great learning experience, because we may have others in the future. This
Right.
is not just happened. We may have others in the future. So it's the truth of the matter is that one thing that I put in a challenge to myself, and as I talk to people, is challenges for a company in healthcare, for example. How can you develop certain programs, like, for example, the development of a vaccine? Is that the traditional way of doing it is a year and a half? How can you do it faster?
Yeah.
And that requires taking some chances that over time we're going to have to do that. You cannot literally wait. Let's not forget, like the Spanish flu killed 675 million thousands Americans back then. Almost 1 million people died from that, right? 2/3 of it. And so we don't want to have that again. I don't think that this is going to be the case, but we want to make sure that this is not only we flatten the curve, but we shorten the whole period altogether. Because if you flatten the curve, but you go for 12 months, that's a disaster for the economy.
You spent a lot of years hiring people coming out of college. Now you're preparing them for their careers. In this situation right now, what's your advice to a college senior? It's a difficult time. They're at UNCW, they're taking their classes via teleconferencing. What's your advice to a college senior right now?
Well, there are two advices. One is for those people who have been preparing themselves. I have several students, for example, that last summer they were doing internships, and now they have a job with that company starting 2 months from now. So that's one group of people that have prepared themselves well. The other group of people who have not done any internship, who have not done anything to prepare themselves, it's going to be a challenge. And so I think they should be preparing themselves quickly. They should be seeking at this very moment internships and co-ops, etc. In addition to that, there's also a natural, and that's a recommendation. Some people may not take it, and I know they will not, but some will. When I graduated back in 1979 and 1980, I sent out, once I decided to go into business and not academia, I had sent out about 35 resumes to academia. And then I sent 141 resumes to businesses. Of the 141 resumes, I got 35 people that wanted to talk to me. And I probably interviewed with about 15 companies. At the end, I got 2 good offers. So this is the type of stuff that you have to do. Today, it's even better. Now, unfortunately, companies don't respond to you anymore. You send resumes to them and gone, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I can tell you, this, to get a job, it will require and does require an effort. And a good job requires a major effort. And so our students, and I'm recommending that to them, get ready, send resumes out, polish up your resume as much as possible. We have a career center that does a great job of helping you do that. Send as many as you can. and interview as many with as many companies as possible, and go, right? Because if you're going to say, well, I'm getting and I'm going to take a gap year, and then I'm going to go to graduate school, that's fine. But if you really want to get a job, you've got to work at it. And to work at it means internships, means seeking it out, means a lot of interviews.
And especially now when many companies,
Right.
may be looking at different things than they're looking at right now,
That's right.
you've really got to stand out if you're a college
Oh, yeah.
senior trying to get a job. You've got to open up somebody's eyes who's thinking about his bottom line, his other employees. There's a lot going on inside those boardrooms and there's offices right
so.
now.
And some companies, like to your point, I would suspect a lot of companies are probably looking at cash flow on one hand and also efficiencies on the other, and putting a stop on hiring, only selectively hiring those people they really needed, right? And so this requires extra effort in order to make yourself visible and get a job eventually.
Same thing with a college, or same thing for a high school senior, somebody who's getting ready to go to college?
Similar. Right. It's a little different in the sense that back in 1950 or 1980, for that matter, probably more than 50% we were not going to college. Today, more than 60% go to college. So these high schoolers are preparing themselves to go to college, either community college or four-year colleges. So that is what they're doing at this very moment, and a lot of them. Some are going to go to work and to get a job without either a community college or a college, or four-year college. I value very much that option too, but that's going to require, again, a very major effort to make yourself, quote unquote, known in the market. Make yourself known about your skills. Talk about skills. A lot of companies are looking for skills, and identification of those skills, where I'm very good at it. Critical thinking, computers, for example. One thing that I would recommend, irrespective of your destination, liberal arts or otherwise, is take some computer classes. That's going to help you big time, because the demand for this area is extremely high and growing. And it's not going to decline once we go back to normal, assuming that we're going to have a normal, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get a normal, and the more you have your bases covered, the better off you're going to be.
What is the normal going to be? I'm going to put you on the spot here. People are learning from home. People are working from home. Do you think more people will do that moving forward? Do you think we'll learn that we can keep people home more?
I think so. I think, look, we are part of our evolution. And you look at what's happening, for example, to shopping malls. You're looking at what has happened to retail. And you look at what's happened to banking. So we have this, this is the new revolution. This country started a revolution back in 1940s, in fact, which was the advent of the shopping centers. Well, today we are transitioning to shopping centers plus the future. And the future is online shopping, big time. And it's happening everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so you can buy a car online, you can get a loan online, you can buy anything online and to be delivered to your door. Is that likely to become more in the future? Yes. So, we are now teaching all of our students starting today online. Now, are we likely to give up on face-to-face? No, we're not going to give up on face-to-face. But there's quote unquote, a great desire to have more of that in the future too. So it's part of this continuum that's already driving towards more online stuff. We're likely to see even more in the future.
You talked a little bit last week, and I know we're running tight on time. You talked a little bit last week about looking at different possible options for commencement. What are some of those options? Have you laid out 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, or are you still studying?
We're still studying it. We have a team that's meeting this week, in fact, the team that takes care of commencement. We're likely to have, some people are choosing virtual commencement, and most students don't like virtual commencement. I have gotten a lot of emails from parents and students who want to walk the stage. It is very important to them, and it's a recognition. It's a recognition of the work, given, and it's a recognition of achievement. And we are going to be looking at that possibility of having a commencement later in the summer, in the August, quote unquote, possibility. And potentially, if for whatever reason we cannot do it, we're going to do it in December. And it's going to be a much bigger event in December, because we normally graduate about 2,000 in December, about 2,600 in May. So if I end up having to graduate 4,600 students in December, that's going to be a major event for us. But if we have to do that, we have to do that, and we'll do it. Yes.
And I'll tell you, as a parent, I wanted to see my child, all three of them, I wanted to see them walk across the stage
Sure,
at that graduation.
Sure. Exactly right. Exactly right. And so I think that there's a great feeling that, at least from what I'm getting, right, from emails and talk to parents and students, they want to see it. They want to walk the stage. Yeah.
I agree. Last question for you. As we sit here on this morning, what is your message to the UNCW community?
The message for the community is keep positive, be hopeful. The world, there's a better stage, and that's the future. Our best days are ahead of us, big time. And so that's very important. I've made my life an example of looking at the glass half full, and how do we do that on a regular basis, even with a coronavirus attack, so to speak, because this is, it's a war. You see what's happening in Italy. It is a major, major issue, and for us to come out of it and save as many lives as possible, and be prepared to, obviously, the ultimate solution is going to be a vaccine, and we'll get that too. But we cannot wait for all of that to happen and wait for a year and a half. We're going to have to do a lot of stuff, and all the social distancing, all the communication that we have seen on washing hands, etc. It's in fact aimed at making sure that we have a life, and that we'll be able to benefit ourselves from a vaccine when it comes later on in the future. But keep positive.
Chancellor Jose Sartarelli, it's always a pleasure to talk to you once again. I wish it was under better circumstances. I hope you and all your administration and everybody in that community stay safe, and we'll talk to you on the other side of this outbreak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right.
Once again, thanks to Dr. Sartarelli and his staff for making time for our interview today. They are posting daily updates on how UNCW is dealing with the coronavirus outbreak. You can find it right there on the front page, uncw.edu. And for all things coronavirus in southeastern North Carolina and across our state, we're posting updates as they come in. On WECT.com, we have a dedicated page on our website, and also one on the WECT News mobile app. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please download and subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you would be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. The more of those we have, the higher we'll be listed on the apps, the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of One-on-One.